Hello, and thank you for visiting Graphene Business Law. My name is Pamela Metani, and I'm the founder and principal lawyer here at Graphene. We serve clients throughout the province of Ontario, offer our services virtually, and of course focus our services on business law offerings for small business owners and entrepreneurs. Important to this video, we also have a channel on this, or a series on this channel focusing on law students and questions that either law students send our way, or of course questions that I remember from my own experiences as a law student and from the circle of friends I had in law school, and questions we all shared in common. Summer is almost here, and worded another way, first year of law school is officially over in most law schools that I know of across Canada, and probably the US as well, this would apply to. And while that's an important moment, the finishing of a year of law school for all law students, regardless of their year of studies, I find and I remember it being an especially important moment for the wrap up of 1L, or the first year of law school. That being said, I wanted to focus today's video on 1L summer employment opportunities or employment ideas, conversations, and with the big focus of the video to be really, it's not about stressing after your first year of law school. It's not the case that the position you enjoy during that first summer after 1L is going to make or break your law career, is going to be, the reason you either did or didn't become the world's best lawyer one day, or Ontario or Canada's or America's best lawyer one day. That's just not how it works. However, there is so little information about what does happen to 1L summer students outside of information we might hear directly from our circle of friends. And I know that in law school, not everybody has that close person or lawyer or relative or connection, whatever the case may be, to ask some of these questions explicitly to, and have somebody shine light on what really happens during 1L summer. That it was really important to me to spend the time in this video to just touch on a few big picture notes when it comes to 1L summer, and the fact that it's okay. For the most part, it's difficult to make a poor choice in employment when it comes to summer of 1L, because the first idea right off the bat is that just being employed during that summer, just finding a position that is somewhat legally relevant is incredible. And if you can't find that position, by the way, having any job at all, of course, is better than no job. Having any job, even if not in a legal field, is going to show discipline, is going to show dedication, is going to show hard work. And on a practical note, having any job certainly brings home more money to allow you to pay your bills, whether rent or summer tuition or whatever the case may be, than no job. So I want to start with that right off the bat and sort of build up as we go. There is absolutely no stigma in working a non-law related job in 1L. Or I shouldn't say there is no stigma around you. Perhaps you're feeling some of that stigma, you're feeling some of those worries, but there should be no stigma. There is no shame in having any job. Any job is going to come with transferable skills, and like I mentioned before, a demonstrable sense of discipline in you as an employee or a worker in whatever capacity you're enjoying in a non-legal position. Okay, so that's important to get, to clear out right off the bat. Many of the people I knew in law school were not able to land legal positions after summer of 1L. And to be honest, that's not really surprising, because you may have already looked in your career offices, your university, your law school career offices, job listings. It's not the case that there are too many positions after 1L, and I mean that's for a host of reasons. One of them being, how much of law do you really know, and how much value are you really going to bring to a really strong law firm after just completing 1L. There's reasons behind the scenes as to why a lot of employers don't post positions for somebody that has just finished 1L, but there's certainly a lot more reasons to be proud of yourself for having any job in 1L, after 1L. And of course, if for whatever reason you can't, including, you know, physical or mental health reasons, whatever the case may be, life with so many people on planet Earth, there are so many life circumstances going around that there really is no shame in what your circumstance is right now. But any job is a good job, and take my word on that. I've seen it play true with so many friends. Some of my most successful friends, whether, you know, the word of describing those practitioners is cutthroat or making money or whatever the case may be, some of those most successful practitioners that I know today didn't have those glamorous 1L jobs, if they existed at all, for 1L summer. And you know what? That also gives you a bigger picture of life and different paths of life and a sense of, I mean, I already used the word different, but a sense of the greater scheme of life, you know, a sense of better understanding people from different walks of life outside of that law firm setting. And that's really important too, to highlight if you do end up having a position in 1L summer or during 1L summer that is not law related. That being said, there's also that category of positions that's called law adjacent positions, law related positions, whatever word you might use. And this could be a position that may or may not explicitly have to do with law. For example, it could be a position that here in Ontario, there's so many ministries of provincial government. You might be working with one of the ministries. While not necessarily a law firm, having one of these positions means that you're working in an organization that of course has policies and legal frameworks and legislation that it's bound by and that it uses to conduct its daily business. And big picture, there is law touching there are elements of law influencing your employer as the ministry, and undoubtedly trickling down to everybody working for that ministry, and including your position as well as a summer student if you manage to find a position with a government body at large, while not necessarily within the legal department of that government body. Another example to that, or another parallel to that in the private or in the corporate world, would of course be work at any company, especially the larger companies. While you might not be hired for the legal department itself, the larger companies that do have multiple departments within them are undoubtedly going to be touched by legal anyways. So if you've had a position in finance in a big company, or in accounting or in marketing, all those contracts are going to have to run through legal, and you're going to get some exposure anyways, despite not being in the legal department. Again, despite not having an official law student, of course, you're not going to have a lawyer title after 1L, but an official law student in law, whatever the terminology might apply to that position, you would otherwise be trying to get down the road. But even working in most corporate settings can be used to your advantage and can be pivoted into being a law adjacent or legally relevant position, okay? Now, if you're adamant on the law firm setting, for example, of course, at surface level, working at a law firm after 1L summer might seem as just this golden ticket to going up and up in better law firms after 2L, after those OCIs, or in articling, just continuing to bounce up, or even stay where you are if you manage to find a strong law firm right away. What I remember from my law school experience, I think there's 2 or 3 law firms that were explicitly open to hiring 1Ls, but in saying 2 or 3, and the class of law students, it can be up to hundreds at certain Canadian law schools. That really gives you perspective as to the fact that 1L summer jobs at a law firm are not the norm. So again, you know, taking away any negative feelings you might have if you haven't found yourself in that setting. And I know it can be frustrating. I've been through all of the steps of law school myself to get through where I am and worked hard through every step. I know it can feel, you know, you've studied some people have always wanted to be a lawyer, myself included. You've studied your whole life to do well in undergrad, and you've done well in undergrad explicitly to get into a good law school and use that, and you're so excited to get yourself in a law firm right away, into that dream setting. And now all of a sudden, after being more qualified than ever, certainly after a year of law school, you're more qualified than prior to that with 0 years of law school, and you're still hearing that, you know what, this really isn't enough, it's not what we're looking for as a law firm, as an employer, you're just not ready yet. And you're thinking, I'm so ready, this is all I've been waiting for. Well, those feelings of frustration, we can let them sit with us for so long that everything we do just makes, feels negative compared to what could have been in our dream world. Or you could go out there, like I mentioned before, and chase any of these opportunities, whether legally adjacent or relevant, or not even legal at all, but that are going to give you life experience first and foremost, that are going to, on a practical note, help pay your bills, but also from a transferable skills perspective, allow you to show yourself as someone of discipline and work ethic and ability, quite frankly. But going back to that strata of law jobs out of 1L that are explicitly at law firms, they're quite rare in terms of the law firms that might most often be talked about at your law school, whether it's larger law firms or some medium-sized law firms, but that are still very reputable. However, if it's your dream to work in a law firm post 1L, chasing a dream is always going to be the best thing you can do for that dream and working toward that dream. So if you're keen to work at a law firm, maybe you message sole practitioners, maybe you message small law shops in your own neighborhood. And, if you're trying to work at a law firm at all costs, then chase any law firm at all costs. Most of them are not going to put out a call to hire for students. But you'd be surprised. From my own experience, I remember writing to a law firm that was in my neighborhood, like a 7-minute walk from my house after finishing 1L, and they didn't have a posting up. And I wrote to them, honestly, simply out of convenience for how close they were and how amazing would that have been. And after speaking with the firm owner a few times, he actually decided to extend an offer my way. For a host of reasons, I ended up moving forward with another opportunity. I actually started my career in-house at the legal department of a very large corporation, international corporation. But as pertains to this law firm setting, I ended up getting an offer for a position that was never posted, that nobody had heard about, because I asked, because I knocked on that door. So when there's a will, there's a way, and if you're keen to find yourself in that law firm setting, push for it, email anybody and everybody that catches your interest, that's within an area you can transport yourself to, whatever the case may be. And today especially, I know here at Graphene, we do virtual work, we work remotely. That's how we're able to help clients all across the province. And same case with an employer you might be looking to work for, a law firm you might be looking to work for. There could be a creative arrangement there in terms of virtual work. And speaking of creative arrangements, by the way, keep in mind from a practitioner perspective, for a lot of practitioners to take on a student full-time, well, they'd love to. I don't know a practitioner that would not love to be involved in shaping that next generation of lawyers. That can be quite costly for some firms. It's just not in the books for them. So to work around that, on the topic of creativity that I mentioned before with virtual work, you can ask a firm if they'd be okay with you providing freelance services, just so that you get to experience a little bit of law firm life if that's your dream, but they also don't have the commitment of paying you week after week after week and paying you benefits and keeping you on a steady salary when they themselves might have quite a volatile income landscape that they're facing. So don't underestimate and don't forget to think about freelance work opportunities. Knock on a door and say, well, it'd be amazing to work as your student full-time. Is there any capacity I can help you with? A few hours of research here and there. If you remember to call my name, I would be so thankful. So grateful for that opportunity to work for you. Any experience is good experience, and especially if you're getting paid for that experience, getting paid to learn by a practitioner, even on a freelance level. Now, of course, that's not an experience that might help you pay your bills in full, but if you're researching for a few hours a week, most likely you'd have the opening in your schedule to work another job that does help pay the bills, including those other positions we talked about that might not even be in law. Okay, and of course for those of you that do apply and get those 2 or 3 positions, I remember from when I went to law school, by firms that whether they're better known or they're larger, whatever the case may be, that allows them to hire, to have that structure to hire regularly, consistently, year after year. I mean, that's an amazing scenario for you, and you should know how privileged of a position that is. But if that's not what you end up getting, there are so many opportunities out there. And even if you look in practice, there's lawyers everywhere that are not lawyers but not necessarily practicing law, whether it be for NGOs or not-for-profits or charities or any kind of organization. At so many different avenues of life, of business, you find lawyers. So with that same idea in mind, it's okay to be a student as well, trying to get experience in law, regardless of exactly where that is. And if you can't find that experience in law right out of 1L, that's okay. Nothing is too late after summer of 1L. I wanted to finish this video, I did want to keep it brief, but finish with one tip, if you will. And for a lot of students, they don't know what kind of law most interests them, and that's okay. And it can be hard to tell in 1L, although the law schools try to provide a broad range of course offerings in 1L. There's so many mandatory courses across so many different practice areas. At the same time, what I found in my experience, while I always wanted to do business law, to me, it was interesting how the law schools are so keen on a student having a taste for the different practice areas, yet what that can end up doing is sort of, blurring a student's idea of what area they like the most based on a course. Because when you take those introductory courses, they're just that, intro courses in a certain practice area, and having one little small bite out of 8 different cakes, if you will, keeping in mind an average of 8 different courses in a first year of law school, doesn't really allow you to savor any one taste and go in depth and find out that this is what I really want. This is the kind of law that I've just really been able to dig my teeth into in 1L. It's not really possible. With that caveat in mind, it could help you to know what kind of law you might want to practice through your own pursuits, whether it's mooting or extracurriculars or researching or calling lawyers or emailing lawyers and asking them to chat about an area of law they practice in. It could be advantageous to you in pursuing a position at any of the avenues discussed in this video to know what kind of law most interests you, only because of the reason that they say the more specific we are with our goals, the more likely they are to happen, to come true, and to be realized. So if you know that you want to practice, you won't be practicing after 1L, by the way, I can tell you that, but if you know that you want to practice after law school in a certain area of law, in a certain setting, all of a sudden your search became that much more niche, that much more tailored to your authentic interests, that it can end up for a better search. And also a more genuine connection when you end up emailing lawyers or cold calling lawyers for a chance to help or freelance at their law firms. When you're emailing a lawyer from every practice under the sun, those conversations can come across a little differently than if you're only emailing criminal defense lawyers or corporate lawyers, because that truly is your greatest interest in law. Your true interests and your true passions are always going to come across very strongly, compared especially to somebody that is sort of neither here nor there. So one extra or one bonus tip at the end of this video would be, I strongly believe it would help you searching for a position in through any of the paths discussed earlier in this video, if you've taken the time to figure out what you want to do, where and what kind of practice, what kind of law you'd like to practice. I'll end the video there. Thank you for watching. Good luck with your job search post 1L. It can make for a really difficult and frustrating time, but also remember, you'll never be this fresh and this young and this able to enjoy life again for the most part. So take your time to yourself, make it meaningful, and be proud of the position you end up holding after 1L, regardless of what exactly that position is.